We continue looking at English language B, and as I promised in my previous presentation, that we shall be looking at question number 7, which is comparison of texts. And this is a 15-mark question whereby we look at the two texts, and I'll say here in terms of the language and also in terms of the structure. So we look at the structural features as well as the language or linguistic features that are represented in both texts. I would also like to say that, for example, when we are looking at text, it is good and imperative for a student or a candidate to know that a text could be compared in terms of the audience, a text could be compared in terms of purpose, and of course, purpose and the audience will determine other things like the language used, the stylistic devices actually employed, and so forth and so on. So, first and foremost, look at the text. What is the purpose for the text in question? Um, what is the function? What objective, what end does it aim to achieve and arrive at? Now, when we look at question number 7 of this very paper that we've been looking at, let's compare how the writers of text 1 and text 2 present their ideas and perspectives about traveling. And of course, you are told to support your answer with examples from both texts. So there we go. If I may just have a look. Just have a look at the paper. Sorry, the question. That is question number 7. There it goes. So text 1, we can see it presents a negative viewpoint from the beginning. It wasn't a good journey. So we can see what we call negative lexis. We can see negative presentation, that it wasn't a good journey. So you can see the disposition here of the writer, of the author of this, tells us it wasn't a good journey. So that's a negative, stance that is taken. And also text 1, we could say that apart from the lexis being negative, it also presents the destination negatively. For example, and here we said, use some quotations from the text. Final jumping off place, heart of darkness, dismal heap, these are negative examples that actually accentuate that point of negative disposition that I'm trying to look at. We also see that it identifies the mistakes he made. So text 1 identifies the mistakes that he made. Left planning my journey much too late, for example. So brings in a situation whereby it's like the speaker or the writer was not so much prepared. So it comes out as, points out the speaker or the writer here or the character involved as someone who is not so much prepared. There's also use of text 1 uses negatives or negative connotations, if we may say so, uses negative connotation to stress that he did not have a good time. So there are negative language, pockets of language or packets of language here to show that he didn't have a good time. So couldn't, such as I couldn't, no sign, no English, not the one, so nothing is no. So negativities are also so much abundant in text 1. There's also use of descriptive, this description here of the plane. So you could say that descriptive language is also used here. Ancient and pilot, for example, aging Air Force officer, to show how dangerous the trip is, because you have an ancient and aging pilot, you have aging Air Force officer, so it's not something that actually inspire a lot of confidence. So text one does not inspire some safety confidence due to the choice of the descriptions that have actually been used here. Text one presents the flight as dangerous. For example, you get terminals dipped and swabbed between the mountains. Planes like ours have a history of finding their final resting place. So there's danger there. It actually shows the plane flying and almost like teetering on the brink of accident. There's lack of assured safety. There's some there's actually some positivity in the experience of the narrator when he uses words such as enjoyed and relief. In terms of point of narratives or point of narration, it is told in first person point of view, and you can clearly establish that by such pronouns like I. So it's told in the first person point of view. So when something, a story or a narrative is told in the first person point of view, it actually gives it that credibility, that authenticity. There's use of negative language, as I've said, prevalent, and which there's a prevalent use of negative language, which actually gives a sense of foreboding, a sense of danger, a sense of premonition, if you may wish to say so. The use of humor is also noted. So there are also pockets of humor just to break the tension that is so much inherent in text one. So there is use of humor, which is also appreciated. Now, when we go on the flip side, we also look at text two. So how does text two compare on or contrast with text one? So text two starts with personal comment. There's a personal comment, which we also call a personal anecdote. There's uses subheadings. There's actually use of subheadings to identify useful information. And it also develops a reassuring and advisory tone. It develops a reassuring and advisory tone, offers positive advice if millions of people, yes, and so forth and so on, offers positive advice. Text two offers advice to take time to enjoy the experience. Don't rush your trip, for example. Mentions the benefits of useful technology. Offers advice to take time to enjoy the experiences. Like, for example, don't rush your trip. So it also comes out as a piece of advice to those who want to travel. Mentions the benefit of useful technology. Get a phone, for instance. It also suggests not over planning. For example, put some flexibility into your schedule. So those examples shows the benefit of planning, of not over planning. It text two endorses adventure. When they say challenge yourself, so it actually permits and endorses, it allows for adventure. It challenges the reader to try adventure. There's also use of direct address you, which engages the readers. That is what I call synthetic personalization, whereby it actually appeals to you, the reader, and personalizes the request in that, and that makes it actually highly persuasive. There's generous use of imperatives to give advice. So imperatives must, should, yes, so to give advice. Text two largely, we see it has a positive approach. As when you looked at text one, it was full of negativity. Text two has a positive approach. Points of comparisons. Text one is entertaining and humorous. Text two is advisory and informative. Text one is aimed at the general public text. Text 2 is aimed at first-time travelers, possibly young people. Text 1 is a personal experience of one journey. Text 2 is an accumulation of experiences. Text 1 presents traveling as unpleasant. Text 2 presents traveling as interesting and a positive experience. So you can see those points of congruency and departure. Positive experiences from text 1 is about a short journey. Text 2 advises to travel slow. Both texts are based on the writer's experiences. So we have almost more of anecdotal experiences here. Both texts are about traveling, and of course, you can also see that both texts clearly convey the writer's perspective and experiences. So, by and large, dear candidates, when you are looking at a comparison of text, remember to look at the themes that are actually ingrained in the text. Look at the language. Look at the structure. Is it told from first-person point of view or second-person point of view? The gender of the narrators or the gender of the characters involved, is one told from a male point of view or a female point of view? Does even one have a title and the other one doesn't have title? Is it organized in subheading and subtitles? Because these are just general advice that I'm also giving and issuing in relation to when you are given a text to compare and contrast. Structurally, that in terms of the syntax, do we have a text that prevalently has short structured sentences, long structured sentences? In terms of paragraphing, do we have short paragraphs, long paragraphs? Is text 1 brought in a formal or an informal style? Is it uses a lot of colloquial expressions, idiomatic expressions? Is there a type of stylistic device that is actually so much employed generously in any of the text? So it should not be a major problem per se when you are looking at the way texts are compared. So that's a mandatory question, and it's actually a 15-mark question, bringing into focus the two texts that you'll be given as part of your reading, that is text 1 and text 2. So these discussions we'll be continuing this discussion in our subsequent videos. So make sure you like and you actually subscribe for you to enjoy the premium services that we are offering for you in preparation for your IGCSE examinations. Now, after dispensing with section A, which has climaxed with the comparison text, there's section B, that is reading and writing. So here you are told to use ideas from both text 1 and text 2 in the extract booklets to answer this question. So this calls into focus application of the information that you actually gathered in both text 1 and text 2. And in this question here, you can see you have been asked to give a talk to your peers about traveling. Write the text of your talk. So it should include the positive aspect of traveling, the problem that might be encountered, advice for travelers about what to do and not to do. Think carefully about the purpose of your talk and the audience for whom it is intended. So the bullet points, 3 so far, it is advisable for you to address those 3 bullet points. And I usually tell students that, okay, first, before you start writing, just generate the points. Generate the points first, because once you generate the points, which is part of your planning, it becomes very easy when you start to write. So you have been asked to give a talk to your peers. So if it's a talk, then it takes the format of a speech. It takes the format of a speech. And who is the audience? The audience is your peers. So the language is moderate, because you are talking to your peers. It's not an ultra formal sort of speech or talk. So it is the people that you are familiar, your peers, and because it's a talk, then it takes the format of a speech. So this is something very important that we should look at your writing, and we look at it and we see this is a speech, not a letter or not an interview or not a report. So it should have all the qualities of a speech, with the introduction, with the body, and of course with the conclusion brought to us or brought out in the correct tenses, or the correct tense for this matter. So one, as I said, please generate your points. So the positive aspects of traveling. So here, as I said, a suitable register for a talk to peer should be adopted. So in the form of a speech. So a suitable register, like choice of language, choice of diction, and the vocabulary here should be adopted for this, sort of writing. Some of the points could be, as we are seeing here, over here. Just let me scroll down a bit. I don't know if you're able to see this or it's problematic. Yeah, some of the points could include, but not limited to the following: the positive aspect of traveling. So, because we are generating our points, so we look at our bullet, the positive aspects of traveling, and here we get like getting away from work. That is one positive aspect. So just generate it. We also see helpful locals, beautiful scenery, the contrast between the jungle and the towns, yeah, positivity, the culture, being able to enjoy the culture, meeting the different types of people, the places visited, of course, could be varied, hence offering those the novelty or the newness of situation. The place visited, I've said, the new challenges and experiences. And of course, as you travel, sometimes you just don't meet mean people, but you meet other travelers who you'll travel with. So you generate bullets points for that first bullet. Second bullet is the problems that might be encountered. So here we also, some of the problems that you may encounter: lack of time, that is rushing through your programs and preparations; dangerous travel arrangements as exhibited in the text; too many airports, like to catch up or to connect; altitude sickness for those who are flying; darkness, sometimes no torch as exhibited in the no torch or source of light or flashlight; problems with the local language. One could experience language barrier; all the planes, okay, like almost the ramshackle one that the writer was talking about; dangerous flights. Of course, we have creepy crawlies, deserted airports, being nervous, out of date guidebooks, books that have never been updated, and therefore they have informations that might not seem very helpful at a given time. Too much luggage to carry around; not getting messages from friends because of network issues, and just being cut out of civilization. So far, that is you've generated points for bullet 2, and as I said, we continue advice for travelers about what to do and not to do. So what are some of the points that we will actually incorporate in our bullet 3? So some advice will be like: give yourself enough time then it's good to plan. Learn a little of the language, basic language. You should learn a little bit. The greetings, asking for directions, etc., etc. Take advice from other more experienced travelers. Enjoy the culture also. Do not pack too much. Do not pack too much unnecessary stuff that you don't need. Buy a cheap phone. Yes, buy a cheap phone that could also store charge for long, so that you don't run the risk of plunging yourself in darkness. And yes, do not overplan. Take more money than you think you will need. Just because sometimes you budget and some contingencies arrive, and unplanned for situation could arise. So you should also take advantage of the support offered by fellow travelers, and of course enjoy the adventure. So having generated your points, then now to gel all these points, now it's a matter of your language. So we look at the quality of your language using connectives and all that to write it in a flowing way. So I think the gist of the matter is, once you have done with your planning, and then it becomes very easy. It becomes very easy for you now to gel this together, to knit them together, and therefore you bring out a format, you bring out a form of a speech, of a good speech that has the introduction, that has, in the body is where now we have all these points that we've talked about, and of course your parting shot, which is the conclusion. So it is just advisable that we do know you do have at your fingertips the format. You have to know the format of different genres, of different types of writing that you are actually advised to do. Yeah, so this part B, it summarizes that. It's also like, we call it also summary writing in some instances, to just bring this, and it's more of what we call transactional sort of writing, because you will need to do a speech in live, and therefore here we are, and of course we've been directed on what to do based on some points that have been actually gathered from the text. Then section C, when we go to section C is about writing. This is what we call composition. So, and the words that you are here you don't have to retell the events from text 1 or text 2. So here is a freestyle. It's a very open forum. You don't have to retell any of from text 1 or text 2. So, and you always have 3 questions. Yeah, you always have 3 questions. Yeah, so one could be discursive. The other one is actually some imaginative writing. And the other one is descriptive. So, and in our current paper, the paper we're looking at, the question 9 was, we only regret the chances we do not take. We only regret the chances we do not take. To what extent do you agree with this? Yeah, so to what extent? So it's either way, to a greater extent or to a lesser extent, and therefore, you should bring out your discussion. It's more of a debate in terms of writing. So please support your stand with points. So support if you agree, yes. If you don't agree, tell us why. So nobody will be demonized or penalized for agreeing or not disagreeing. If you agree, please agree with the points. If you disagree, please disagree with points. If you want to look at both sides, but give us a stand. Yes. Looking at both sides, this is where do we stand. So number 10, write a story, and the story is always true or imaginary, entitled Doing the Right Thing. So this is just imaginary, creative sort of writing, doing the right thing. So the story could be real or imaginary. So here, using language, those stylistic devices, all manner of them, proper sentence structures, punctuations, varied lexes or vocabularies, just trying to make your story to be as interesting as possible. And lastly, describe your favorite forms. So you realize that descriptive writing is also a part of this question. So section C is either you're doing a discursive or argumentative, you are doing a narrative here, or you're doing a descriptive. So when you describe, do you appeal? How do you describe? Do you appeal to our senses? Are we able to see? Are you telling or showing, or are you showing or telling? So are you able to appeal to our sensory touches, sense of hearing, sense of sight, sense of touch, sense of taste, sense of smell? Are we able to see clearly what you're talking about? Yeah, so in compositions, there are those 3 areas, and of course, I always advise students that along the way you choose a question that favors you, that where your strength lies. And we shall be discussing in our subsequent videos, as you subscribe and also like what we are telling us and give us ideas and views extensively. We shall be discussing extensively these areas, the compositions, like how do you do a good argumentative or discursive essay or composition? How do you do a good imaginary essay? How do you do a good descriptive essay? Yeah, so basically in a nutshell, that is how it is. And of course, you need to watch out and look out for our upcoming videos that we are going to unleash and release very, very soon, as we help each other and we help you to prepare adequately for the forthcoming IGCSE exams. So until next time, thank you. I've been your teacher, Mr. Dan Odongo.